or like cultivating regulars. We
Hmm.
started talking about this a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, so you're saying people from 1 Mile House, which you have not owned for over 2 years, coming up on
Yeah.
three, probably, right?
Yeah. I think so. Right. Yeah. That blip, the whole COVID, you forget like
Yeah.
time frame.
Um,
Um,
they still come out to Sweet Avenue.
yeah.
Your bar manager
And it was
opened a
great.
place in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
They follow her
Oh,
there. Like, what did
yeah.
you guys do at 1 Mile House? Do you
I
have
don't,
any rules for it? Like what'd you do successfully?
I think don't treat anyone like an asshole is definitely a good start. Like I
Mm-hmm.
hate going to a bar and the bartender feels like he's doing you a favor or
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like there's nothing worse than that. It's like, dude,
totally.
you're you're a bartender. Like your job is to be nice. Your job is to engage. Your job is to make sure someone has a good experience. And you know what? Those people tip you for it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
why are you in such a bad mood? Or why do you feel like the need to put yourself above somebody?
Yeah.
Right. And I think that happens way too often in our field.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's not the president of the United States, even though that's not that big of a deal anymore. But like, you know what I mean? Like you're not, your job is literally not to be above somebody or to treat them that way. Like your job
Like,
is
yeah, it's to make
make
their
someone
day
comfortable.
better,
Yeah.
you know?
um Engage, be interested, like that's kind of what. And again, another person that worked for me, he has a partner in a bar in Midtown. He was great at it. Megan was great at it. And like, you don't want robots. You don't want the same person behind the bar that does the same thing the way that you want it to be done, because that's boring. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you want people to engage um in their personalities. You know what I mean? You're not going to be able to connect with everybody. So maybe there's a person, like if you have the same kind of person, you're not connecting with everybody.
Right.
Um, I don't know if I explained that right, but like basically, I think the standard is just be engaging, be available, and make sure people have a drink in front of them. I think that's basic minimum what you have to do.
Yeah, that's what
Um,
I was thinking when you were saying that. That's like the baseline, providing people a good experience.
yeah.
That is great.
Hmm.
And I love it when that happens, but that's not making me get on a train for 45 minutes to go
Right.
to a different borough.
Yeah.
So what is the next, like,
What's the next
what
level?
it like why are they doing that? That, like, obviously they know you have great beer,
Yeah.
but like there are other places with great beer. They could go the
Yeah.
other direction and go down to, I don't know, Owl Farm or something.
Yeah. Yeah. No, of
You know?
course. Yeah. I think I don't know. I think you have to tackle your neighborhood. I think that's the biggest thing is that, if you're not good in your own neighborhood, then um, you're not going to be successful. Like
Yeah.
1 Mile House is a little different because it wasn't really that much of a neighborhood. It was, um, beer events drove. We had a concert venue next door that really helped bring in people, and that was a conscious thing that we started the place with.
Right.
But here is like Sweet Avenue is definitely more of a neighborhood place, and it's there's a bar on every block, so it's like you have to conquer, you have to like tackle and make people happy on your block, and then so on. Word of mouth I think is huge.
Okay.
um
And so is there like an engine that you use to drive that? Are you like telling people, like, when they autograph their check at the end of the night, hey, tell your friends, or anything like that? Like, are you
no,
like proactively doing it?
I don't think so. Like I feel like that feels fake sometimes. It's
Yep.
like, oh, tell all your friends, like
Yeah.
that classic like line. And I don't know. I think just setting that standard of making sure everyone has a good time there is first, right? And
Yep.
then you do other things like, we do a trivia night, but we don't do a regular trivia. We do a music trivia. So it's almost like a name that tune where we play
Okay.
little audio clips and there's a theme. So we got this guy, Trivia Mike, Mike hosts trivia that does an amazing job of that. We had that last night and that packs the house. So
Okay.
then you have that Tuesday, right? That people are coming in religiously. And then they have a good time. So then it's like weekend rolls around, like, oh, where are we going to go? Oh, we had such a great time on Tuesday. Let's go there. So then you
Mm-hmm.
have two days where someone's coming in instead of one. And then you make sure that that person gets introduced to the person to the left of them. And then they
Okay.
know somebody. And then that trickle down effect keeps going. And then if you're by yourself and you're walking by the shop, you're more likely to walk in because you know what? You're probably going to know someone at the bar, whether
Somebody's
it's the
going to be in
bartender or
there.
not.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you kind of create that atmosphere of community. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the best way to tackle it, you
Okay.
know, and that's something that a Yelp review or none of that's going to show up on a
Yeah.
screen. Like you have to experience that. And I think, that all starts with the staff and like how good they are. And, I've been very lucky in my life to have really good staff. And,
Hmm.
my current staff to my old staff, like they really care, you know what I mean? And they're happy to come to work, I hope. And, but but it's like it's almost it's not a hang because it is a job, but it's like, you're going to enjoy your customers on a daily basis. We have fantastic customers and, like you enjoy seeing them and like, hey, how did that thing go the other day? Or, and whatnot.
Right.
Um, but I do think that like that's the biggest thing. And if you can achieve that and then someone on the outside comes in and sees that, they're like, oh,
I
maybe I
want to
would
be
be
a
a part of
part
that.
of that.
Yeah,
Right.
maybe, yeah, you hope.
Yeah.
Again, you're not getting the same people, but I like the friendships that I've seen build out of 1 Mile House and Sweet Avenue is amazing. Like
That's
people that
cool.
never would have hung out ever, but they had a
Hmm.
commonality of craft beer, and then they just asked the question like, "Hey, what do you think of that beer?" You know what I mean? Or a bartender was like, "Hey, you guys are drinking the same thing. What do you think?"
Hmm.
Or just opening up a beer and just sharing it with people. On the
Right.
like samples or I think allowing people to bring in beer is huge for me.
Yeah.
Like
Totally. If they want to share with the bartender. Yeah. People
yeah.
used to do that when I worked at St. Gambrinus
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
back.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. People, regulars used to bring in, hey, I went out to Denver for a trip and I brought home this awesome
Yeah.
cerebral.
Uh-huh.
Do you want some? It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, sure.
Of course
Great.
I do.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is, and you also get to try unbelievable beer. You know what I mean? And it's like, but then like like I work behind the bar on Sundays. I just love having my feet on the in the which I didn't do a lot at 1 Mile, only in the beginning. But
Right.
I do. I just because I'm local and I just like it, and it's it got me back to my roots. But like Sundays we'll have a theme. Like we'll do you know one of my regulars called it a conversation with cherries, and then everyone brought in like cherry sours or some beer that had cherries in it.
Nice.
So then we had like 10 people show up. Everyone brought a beer. We got 10 beers. Everyone's also drinking from the taps and stuff like that. And then you have 10 people just talking about one singular thing.
Yeah.
It's like it's great. And I didn't put that together. They did. You know what I mean? Like that was something they did. They just used my space as a vessel to do it. And
But they knew that it was the kind of a place where you could
you
do that
could, yeah,
because of like the communal feeling space that you've set up,
yeah,
right?
I think so. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it is. I mean, that's what you're there for. And it's like I could see some people being like, well, they're not drinking your tap, so why would you do that? And it's like, but they're only there because, like, you know what I mean? They're there because of that. And I don't know. I just always really like that. And it's like, some bars don't give away free tasters. Like, you have to pay for your like, I don't get that either. Like, you're selling the beer. Like, I give away
Yeah.
tasters all the
Like,
time. I encourage it. Like, I
yeah. I
always
mean,
say, like, you want to get this right.
I think the last, yeah, when I was at St. Gambrinus, I think it was just like a policy of somebody, like if you have served them 3 beers, like over the course of like, they're not like sitting there drinking 8 beers
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
whatever, but like if they paid for like 3 or 4 in a row, give them one,
Yeah, of
like
course. That
buyback.
buyback. Uh-huh. I think people are
Like,
going away from that, honestly. Like, I've heard a lot of restaurants, like, being like, oh, I just don't do that. Like, it doesn't,
my question for those folks
it's
is
built
like,
into my cost.
do you like spend anything for marketing?
Do
If
I?
so, like
Oh,
pull it all
oh,
down
yeah.
and just
Yeah.
give beer away.
Yeah.
You want a better way for people to come back? That's
That's yeah. I mean, I definitely think, I could see, buybacks in a way. I hate to say this, but like earned, you know what I mean? Like you have to be a good human and like
oh
you
yeah.
have to take care of your bartenders. Like if you don't tip, you're not getting a buyback from a bartender. That's
Oh
just
yeah, for
that's
sure.
just an underlying rule, that we've all learned from day one. But
Hmm.
um and if you're an asshole, like people are human. They're not going to do you a favor if you're not
Yeah,
nice, like
for sure.
um but
And
yeah, I
also, if you're
definitely
an asshole, we don't want you here to start with.
exactly like we'll
So
weed you out. We'll try to get rid of you somehow.
yeah.
um it's yeah, because you're messing with the ecosystem, you know what I mean? Like it's a very delicate balance, and sometimes like we did an Oktoberfest and whatnot, and it was like, had the leader hose it on, did the sign holding competition, had some great beers from Germany, whatever. And then like you can kind of see like if someone walked into that, it's like, oh my God, this is like a clubhouse,
Right.
vibe. Because everybody knows each other and everyone's drinking a little more heavily maybe on that day, and it's a little more raucous and whatnot. but that's it. I mean, that's a part. You have a party. That's what you kind of want to do, right? And that's
Yeah.
it's still a business, and there's still money transactions and whatnot. But like, you could see how someone would walk in and be like, "What the hell's going on here?" Like they're having too good of a time, like. But that's it's a one-off day in the year.
Right.
But it's yeah, and I think that's the biggest way is really just having a standard, holding to it, and not trying to be fake about it.
Yeah.
I think that helps. I think a lot
Well,
of times when people spend money on marketing, it's like, who does people want us to be? And
right.
we're going to try to focus on that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
let's focus on the customers we don't have instead of the customers that we do have. And I think, you know, business is tough. It's not easy to do this. And
Yeah, for sure.
and to get out of your own way and read the room and also take advice from people that sometimes you don't want to take advice from, or hear something that you don't want someone, that you might just be blind to. You don't see it, you're in that space every single day. And it's like, oh, I should have something there, like
Yeah.
I should put a coat hook there because I don't know why I didn't before, but I should. Because someone
Uh-huh.
keeps looking in that direction for one to be there, but I didn't have one
Right.
there. So now, and then you just do it, you know what I mean? And that you're always learning and stuff like that. So I think the point is just take care of your house first, and then you can go on the internet and look cool.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And use it social media. Social media is huge. Like our Instagram is very, the lifeline. Like that's how we get our news out,
Uh-huh.
That's
Right.
basically like this is the event we're doing, um, and just stay on top of that. Like I
Yeah.
think like consistency is the biggest thing with social media. It's hard
Mm-hmm.
coming up with content because you're in the space every day and
Yeah.
trying to make it look
It's
fun. But
trying to make it look fun, trying to like, I don't know, it's just so watered down or polluted. I don't know like what the right metaphor is now. Like there's so much stuff
yeah,
and
it's an
they're
information overload.
everything is monetized so much, like, and I just saw that all their earnings are down, so I don't know what that's going to mean for like tweaking the algorithm further or like
Things are going
making
to
it,
start becoming Yelp, trying to
yeah,
get money from you.
even worse. I don't know.
Yeah.
um
The
but yeah, okay, so cultivating regulars, I think, is a good way that you put it. It's just
yeah,
like, and it's
take
not
care of
even
home base.
like the first step is not even like cultivating relationships. It's cultivating a space in which people can have
Mm-hmm.
build build on existing relationships and like make new ones.
Yeah.
That's just like a cool
And
thing.
yeah,
you
and I
know
did. That's it. Like you're trying to create an atmosphere of cool. Like that's
yeah.
basically, like I know, like visually, like I never went to school for anything, but I like design. I like, I created my own logo. I designed the space, and it's not chicken wire glass and reclaimed wood. It's orange and white checker tile floors and
Mm-hmm.
like very bright. There's orange everywhere, and like standing out that way helps. I think like having that visual of like, oh, it's different. Like if you're scrolling through a feed or something and everything's the same, right? And then all of a sudden
Yeah.
something's different. You're like, you stop and look. Like I think that
Right.
that helps. And I've always
Or
hated
if
it.
you're walking down the street and you're essentially like scrolling through looking at all the same looking stuff, and then all of a sudden,
Boom.
whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. What is that? You
Yeah.
know, I mean, with that, you get, like people think I'm something that I'm not. Sometimes, they walk in, they see the fridges and they're like, oh, you're not a bodega, or, or you're a coffee shop. You have coffee? Like, no, there's actually a coffee shop right next door. Um, but yeah, so I think, it's people expect a certain thing. And when it's different, it's like it takes a minute for them to recognize,
Right. Yeah.
but being different, I think, you're never going to be more successful than if you are a little different, if you're a trendsetter as opposed to a follower,
Right.
you know, but we're all
You
doing the same
mentioned
shit, but it's, just trying to be a little different.
you
Mhm.
were talking about tackling the neighborhood. How did that, like, you're starting kind of like ahead in the race because it's your home neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
So like what was the first thing you did when you opened to like try to tackle the neighborhood? Like how did
Um,
you
I mean, full disclosure, I worked in the city a lot, so I actually didn't really hang out in this neighborhood. I really didn't
Okay.
know many people in this neighborhood. I lived in this neighborhood for 10 years.
Okay.
And I noticed certain things. And like even going out to dinner with my wife and my kid, it's like we would go outside the neighborhood a lot, I hate to say that now, but like it was almost like I moved into a new neighborhood when I opened up because I was somewhat detached from it. And it's, like a
Yeah.
painter doesn't paint at home, he paints at a studio. I don't know. That's a bad analogy, but a chef doesn't have food on the stove every single day. He cooks it,
Right.
he's got jeans in his oven, as opposed that's a storage space instead of a workspace.
Right.
You don't take home what you
Yeah.
do.
I
So
get you.
I have no beer in my fridge. I have, like I never drink at home. And it's one of those things where I think I just took that too far where I lived. Obviously go out to eat and I knew certain people, but it was almost like opening up in a new neighborhood when
Okay.
I first opened up.
That's a
Um,
cool experience for you
it
as
is.
well, getting to
Yeah.
know home a little
Yeah.
bit better.
Like so much more, and knowing other bar owners in the neighborhood and restaurant owners and being part of a community. Like Sunnyside's very community based, and
Hmm.
really ingraining myself into that, I think was a good idea. I think it's a good idea anywhere, but like,
Right.
supporting, we just did a mile run that, just being a sponsor of that, being a part of that, walking in it. Like it doesn't take much,
Yeah.
and now being local, it's like I just walk from my apartment right down to the thing, go have the run, open up the shop, have a couple
Yeah.
beers, and
Easy.
that's easy
Does not
peasy.
take 2.5 hours anymore
No.
to do
And
that.
it's like it's definitely not Manhattan. So it's like it's one of those things where and people really like being here. And I don't blame them because
Yeah.
it's a really great place to be. And
You mean people like living there?
yeah, like
Yeah.
it's amazing. Like I thought Astoria was like that, was I had a couple ventures there, and like you really social media wise, they really got behind you before you were even open, letting the word out, and here was even more so. It was like
Got
it's
it.
smaller, it's much smaller than Astoria, I think it's like 100,000 people as opposed to 400,000 people, but it's like
Okay.
it's one of those things where it's much more, it's the neighborhood. The people stay in this neighborhood, they work from home, they're it's definitely much more of a small town feel than it is like you're in
Got
a
it.
big city. Yeah.
So yeah, so when you opened up, like
What did I do?
what was the
um
first thing you did?
Started a social media page, did that kind of campaign, like kind of
Yep.
showed the branding, kind
Yep.
of custom glassware, the logo, like all that. It's like I think it's kind of not to pat myself on the back.
Instagram mostly?
It's yeah, it was. And it's eye catching, and I think stuff like that, and just building that anticipation. So when we
Right.
finally did open, it was like finally,
Mm-hmm.
and you definitely had some craft beer people reach out, and like, oh, when does this open? Like people I didn't know.
Nice.
Um,
So
Funny story.
you weren't like trying to advertise or like do like influence. You weren't like reaching out to other
No,
people
yeah,
or
I mean that might be dumb, but I just didn't do it. No,
I don't know. I've
yeah,
never
I don't
opened a
know if
bar,
there's a right or
you know.
wrong way. I think it's just, there's an audience out there. They're looking at you. You just have to keep them engaged. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And
Right.
I think the fact that I had 1 mile would probably helped a little.
Yeah.
Like there was validity in what was going in there as opposed to some just bullshit.
Yeah.
Person, finance bro or something doing craft beer store or whatever. But
Yeah.
um, I think yeah, that I think helped. I think yeah, I don't realize. Yeah, I think it's just a lot of social media, being
Social
engaged.
media, having the beers that you had
Yeah,
is
like
going to
kind of
help. Like people
yeah,
are going to be like especially, people are going to be looking either on Google or on beer menus and they're going
yeah,
to find like, whoa, wow. Okay.
yeah. I mean, having those kegs, like I think like our opening day list, like I think we had some like Monkish, we
Wow.
had
Okay.
Hill Farmstead, we had I don't know, like like all the buzz, other half, and like I saw all those breweries come up, through 1 Mile House. So like having those relationships in place already definitely
Yeah,
helps. And
that
when
helps.
you tell those people like, hey, I'm opening up this shop, this is what's happening, and then hey, did you hear, Jared's opening up a new shop or what? Like that buzz goes a long way too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that's yeah. I think it's the old school way of word of mouth, and
Word of mouth. And then
word of
just
mouth happens with the
like we were talking
Instagram and
about baseline, just providing people a good experience so that things compound.
yeah,
You're not just like churning out customers. People come in and are like, oh fuck, that sucked.
yeah.
Not coming back.
I definitely hope that
Like
doesn't happen,
I
but I
came
could
up
see
here
it.
for
Yeah,
this.
yeah. It is, and like I think events are huge.
Okay.
I know like tap takeovers are kind of like not what they used to be,
Yeah. Well, they
or
can be like, it depends on what it is.
right.
It's like if you're having a Bell's tap takeover, it's kind
Yeah,
of like, All right,
Why?
dude.
Yeah. No, it's
Cool.
true. And I think like having those relationships with the breweries too is being able to reach out to them personally and be like, hey, I'm doing an event. Can you send me some brewery only stuff? Or
Yeah.
throw me a keg of that, and I think the details that go into that and the care like kind of separates you, and then people start talking about you as well,
Right.
like
Yeah.
um having that, and that's always having your foot on the gas of like, that's a lot of what you do for a beer shop is cultivating relationships like that, making
With
sure
like
you're good.
industry people, right?
Yeah,
Like brewery and
hmm
distributors and stuff.
distributors, everything, and again, I think I had a lot of that 1 Mile House magic a little bit with it. Like they were like, hey, we'll take care of you because you had 1 mile, and like we know that you know what you're doing, and you know
Yeah.
that
Which is
helps.
huge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we could come out of a craft beer desert coming out, trying to be. I mean, you always swing to have the best tap list every day of anyone in the city, but at least in Queens we are, and but yeah, like having those goodies, and half the people don't even know what it is, and they're like, oh, but I can tell you now, like there was about 150 people in this neighborhood that had no idea who Hill Farmstead was a year ago, and now they all do. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they know to come in, and they know what Brettanomyces is now. They know what like
Nice.
a Brett Lager looks like or tastes like, and that's the beauty of it too. Like that's the fun part is when you get someone that has no idea, they're just coming in because you're new and want to
Yeah.
get what's going, and when you can kind of just like, all right, what do you like, and then start from there and kind of move them a little,
Right.
like not on purpose, but you try to like, hey, did you try this one? Or
Yeah.
by sampling stuff, and it's like, oh, I like that, and then boom, you have like an avenue to just kind of take them down the journey. It's like
Yeah.
I love that. I don't like beer. Oh yeah, we'll find you something. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like yeah,
Prove it.
yeah, exactly. There's always a beer for somebody, whether it's
Totally.
the most rarest like Lichtenheiner or if it's just an IPA.
Right. Right.
um that's a lot of fun, and that's a lot of engagement too as well. It's like that, it doesn't just go to drinking, it becomes a hobby, and it's like, oh well, I'm going to go to the event because I have to try these 3 beers that, and
Right.
um
And
that's
they know
the
they can
that's the big
stop in.
disguise of craft beer.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they just know that they can stop in anytime and have something cool.
Yeah.
So it's like once you get them to have it be a hobby or an interest, then
Hmm.
you've
Yeah.
got them,
Yeah.
you know?
And it is, and there's some stuff that you put on that like some of these hype breweries, and you're just like, this is ridiculous, like ridiculous beer. Like, why are people like this so much? And you put it up because you have to, you know what I mean? Because it does
Right.
sell, but like I could tell you now, like I had 30 lines at 1 mile, and I would probably have about 18 IPAs up, right?
Really?
Maybe not that many. I
I
maybe
guess
I'm
that was like
that
the
was the
height,
craze,
height,
yeah.
height of it.
Of course, yeah. And then now I have 12 lines, and I probably have 5 lagers up and like 2 or 3 IPAs.
Even as we're
Like
getting colder, 5
yeah.
lagers.
Well, then you have
Okay.
a black lager or
Right.
a porter or something like that. Um, but like I think because I like that, I like beer flavored beer, um and I like all the other stuff too. It's all but it's I I think having that variety and being able to like push people in that direction, like that's what we are. We have the side pole. We do the lager the right way. We do every we don't have just 4 pilsners. We have uh an oak fermented country style
Mm,
lager, which I don't know what a country lager is, but that seems to be a new term that's being thrown around. Having a kolsch and having just having these
right.
different styles, but nothing's the same, but everything is, and
Right.
um I do think the haze is getting fatigued. I think people have that, like, I started doing recently, which I think is hilarious, is doing a traditional old school West Coast IPA on draft. Like we did Union Jack the other day. We did
Nice.
Ale Smith IPA, which I love,
Yeah. I
and the
went and
thing,
just bought Sierra Nevada Pale Ale the other day, which I haven't done
fantastic,
in, I don't know,
right?
10 years,
Yeah.
12 years.
And that's like the baseline for craft beer. Like that is the standard,
Right.
Um, but it is like I have Torpedo coming on. Like, but
Nice.
the thing is that for a craft beer bar, it's like, oh well, that's old news, but it's not. It's brand new news to a lot of beer drinkers that have never had
Right.
that before. They have
Totally.
these bi-coastal West Coast IPAs that these East Coast breweries are making that are it's clear, but it's sweet, and it's juicy. And you're like, well, that doesn't make sense. Like, don't call it that. Call it something else. And then when I put an AleSmith IPA in front of someone, like, oh, this is bitter and dank, and that's opposite. But that's the first time they're ever having it, and it's like,
Well, you
so it's
think about
become,
some of these kids, like kids, I don't know, like
yeah,
people who, who started drinking beer within the last 8 years or something.
yeah,
They have
yeah,
no idea.
none whatsoever. So it's old news, but it's brand new news, and like
Hmm.
having that one line of like just that baseline beer. And I'll tell you what, those beers fly, like
Yeah,
fly out. It's also people being nostalgic, but other people just like it.
yeah,
It's something new. Um,
love it.
yeah, so that's been fun. Like, just I got, like a keg of Brewery Mischief the other day, and I was like, that beer
Ah,
is so good. And I haven't had it in
oh,
years, but it
yeah,
just popped on an inventory sheet to me, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to get that and see what people think. 5 days later, keg's gone,
gone.
like gone.
Nice.
And you're like, these beers are amazing, like when we forget because we're trying to chase the hype a little bit, and you're like, um, why? Like, there's so much good beer out there. Just kind of remember what you drank before and show that to
Remember
all
what
your
you
clients.
drank before, and like remember that most of the customers are not the hype people,
Yeah, yeah,
especially like in the neighborhood
yeah,
situation like you are, like they
yeah,
just want to drink a beer that tastes good.
yeah, yeah. It's as simple as that.